This is Discovering the Scriptures with Dr. Peter John Parisis. We are now entering in Daniel chapter 2, verse 14. We're going to read it in context first. That is Daniel 14 in verse 15 of chapter 2. Reading from the King James Bible, quote, "Then Daniel answered with counsel and wisdom to Arioch, the captain of the king's guard, which was gone forth to slay the wise men of Babylon. And he answered and said to Arioch, the king's captain, Why is the decree so hasty from the king? Then Arioch made the thing known to Daniel," unquote. So now the verse that we're looking at is the 14th verse. Quote, "Then Daniel answered with counsel and wisdom to Arioch, the captain of the king's guard, which was gone forth to slay the wise men of Babylon." We're going to focus on this verse so we can see what Daniel's trying to tell us about what's happening here. We're going to read it now in the Young's Literal Translation. Quote, "Then Daniel hath replied with counsel and discretion to Arioch, chief of the executioners of the king, who hath gone forth to slay the wise men of Babylon," unquote. Now, we're going to go ahead and look at this in the Interlinear Bible and get the direct translation of this now to see what more we can do and find out of what Daniel's trying to communicate. Here is the raw version of it. Reading it, quote, "The captain, Arioch, and wisdom with counsel answered Daniel. Then the wise men to kill had gone out, who kings thee of guard of Babylon," unquote. So pretty much what we have just read is exactly what's going on. There's no differences to speak of. So let's go ahead and parse this out. Now we're parsing out the Aramaic that Daniel is writing about the event. Then Daniel answered. Now let's go ahead and parse out this answered. See what we have. Aphiel stem. So it's a causative conjunction. And it's a perfect aspect, which means it's completed action. So causative conjunction. Continuing, with counsel and wisdom to Arioch, the captain of the king's guard, which was gone forth. Now let's parse out the Aramaic word for which was gone forth. It's a PL stem, which represents the same as a quell in Hebrew. So it's a casual action, so it's a simple action. And it's perfect, so it's a simple completed. He has gone forth to slay. Now let's look at the word for to slay. It's a PL stem, which is an intensive form of the verb, and it's an infinite. So he's slaying, ing, slaying the wise men of Babylon. He's intensely doing this. Now let's go ahead and look at the commentaries on this particular verse and see what we can get more from that. John Gill's commentary of the Bible has an interesting footnotes here. Well, actually, notes in his commentaries. I'm going to read it for you. Quote, "Then Daniel answered with counsel and wisdom, in a discreet manner, using soft words and gentle language, humble and modestly inquiring what should be the meaning of all this." The Vulgate Latin version is, quote, "He inquired of the law and decree," unquote, which was the reason for the king's orders, which this officer had in commission to execute, with which others agree, or, quote, "He made to return the counsel and decree," unquote. As some chose to render it, he stopped the execution of it for the present by his inquiries and the prudent behavior, but neither seemed to agree with what follows. The first sense is best. To Arioch, the captain of the king's guards. There was a king of his name, Genesis 14, verse 1, reading from the King James Bible, quote, "And it came to pass in the days of Raphel, king of Shinar, Arioch, king of Elashar, Kedorlaomer, king of Elam, and Tidal, king of nations, unquote. This man, according to the Septuagint version and others that follow it, was the chief of the king's cooks. And Ibn Ezra says the word in Arabic language so signifies, or as it may be rendered, the chief of the slaughterers, the executioners of malefactors. So Jaichar, he was the king's chief executioner, with which agrees the business he was now charged with. The Vulcan language version calls him the prince of the militant, and others the king's provost marshal, which was gone forth to slay the wise men of Babylon, who by the king's order went forth from the court into the city to slay all in Babylon who went under the character of wise men. They were not among those that could not answer the king's demand, since they declared none could do it, and therefore he ordered them all to be slain, as a set of useless men in his kingdom. So that is John Gill's commentary, unquote, of this verse. So now we can see that we have a story going on, which we do need to continue on to find out what is happening. So continue on to Daniel 2:15, and let's see where this goes. May God richly bless you as you study the Scriptures and draw closer to Him. God bless.